This victim was just 13 years old when the Golden State Killer crawled in her window, tied her up, and raped her. Tonight, she talked with our 10 News anchor Brian Schlonsky about what she said to the killer that may have saved her life. Brian.
Well, Steve, she stood her ground, even knowing what he was about to do, and she believes that is what threw him off. She also says she never knew if this day would come, a day where there would be an arrest, but she says now that it has, she's thrilled. Not so much for herself, though, but for the other victims, their families, and the dedicated detectives who never gave up.
I was really concerned that people would go to their graves without knowing who killed their loved ones.
Margaret Wardlow doesn't dwell on what happened to her that night in 1977, the night she became victim number 27. But just because she doesn't dwell on it doesn't mean she doesn't remember.
Prior to my attack, I was on top of every story that came out in the newspaper. I felt like I had a dossier written about the guy.
But even after studying the crimes, and even with a flashlight beaming into her eyes, and a man working to tie her up,
I knew he had leather gloves on. I could hear him. I could feel them.
Wardlow says she didn't know it was the Golden State Killer, a.k.a. the East Area Rapist, a.k.a. the original Night Stalker, at least at first.
And he just kept telling me, this isn't a joke, this isn't a joke.
When she looked at the clock and saw it was 2:30 a.m., Wardlow says that's when she realized.
This is the East Area Rapist, and this is what's going on. And it was like time for me to realize that I was dealing with a serial rapist.
Wardlow says the man also tied up her mom, stacking plates on her so he'd know if she moved.
He asked in a very harsh whisper, like, do you want to die? Do you want me to kill your mother? I just told him, I don't care.
Wardlow says she believes it was that defiance that saved her life. And while she frequently visits with the other victims in this case, she says the crime will not define her.
Certainly I'm a victim. I was 13 years old. A man came into my home, tied up my mother, and raped me. But I don't own that. That's not, I can choose whether I own that or not, and I don't own it.
And Wardlow tells me she does plan on going to the suspect's court dates, and if she does go, she just wants to ask him why. Brian Schlonsky, 10 News.
Such a fighter. Thank you, Brian. We have more information on 10news.com about the decades-long case. That includes this interactive timeline that you will see as well. That's going to tell you about all the crimes. You can find a link to it on 10news.com right there on the homepage.